This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes and may not be suitable for all audiences.
Welcome back to In the Cy of the Storm, where we talk all things Cyclones. We are coming to you again live from the Gravitate Co-working Studios. I'm Dave Larson here with my Storm team partners and Cyclone greats, Brent Curvey and Marcus Pfizer. Gentlemen, how are you tonight?
Doing good, man. Doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Our snow is seemingly melted, something you don't have to worry about there, Marcus.
Our who?
Our snow has melted.
He said, say what?
It's white stuff that comes down from the sky.
I remember it. We get a little snow on top of the mountain on Mount Charleston, but that's about it.
But you have to go to it. You probably don't see it down in the valley much, do you?
You have to go to it, but I don't go to it.
Well, speaking of snow, we saw a tremendous game on Saturday between Iowa State and Kansas State. I'm calling it the Snowmageddon, Farmageddon. What an amazing game. We took some notes here. 35 offensive plays for Iowa State, 102 for Kansas State. We had 2 total plays in the Kansas State side of the field. I don't know. I've never seen a game like that. Have you?
That was unreal, man. Super dope. It happened in our favor for a change, but that was unreal to see, man. Our offense looked crazy explosive, but that snow is, it can be a gift and a curse. And it was a gift for us, but it was definitely a struggle for them.
Well, and I thought it was remarkable too. You know, there were so many times where you saw us just take off and make those cuts. And even in nice games on a September Jack Trice Field, you see players slipping or cutting, and I didn't see any slippage at all on top of that snow. And there was quite a bit of snow there in Manhattan, Kansas for that particular game. Are they wearing some different type of shoes or something in comparison to Kansas State? What do you think was the difference there in us being able to make those cuts?
Usually, I know for grass games, we'd wear like metal cleats. So like the screw-in cleats versus the other shoes that you wear on turf is like molded. So like basically the cleats come in. But so with the other ones, you could like screw them on and off. So that obviously if they were ever dull or whatever, you could always swap them out for a new pair. Or swap the bottoms out for new actual cleats. So, I mean, in all honesty, that could have played a role in it. I mean, you would think that K-State was prepared enough for that. But, I mean, they were making some plays, too. They weren't as sure tacklers as we were, though. But, yeah, I mean, it would appear that we came prepared for snow, and that would be a big reason why we were able to keep our footing a lot in that stuff. So,
well, the Kansas State ground crew, they seem to have issues with getting the snow off. I saw before pregame there that they were taking a leaf blower to try to blow off the snow off the sidelines and then off the midfield lines. But outside of that, I was really surprised they didn't try to sweep through a couple times during the game.
Yeah, me too. Got to be better prepared, man.
Yeah, other stats that I wrote down here: time of possession, Iowa State just 17 minutes and 48 seconds. Kansas State 42 minutes. I mean, we're talking 3/4 of the game. Kansas State held the ball. Our defense was out there for an awful long time, but boy, they really came up big at the end.
Yeah, our defense has been great for us pretty much all year. It's the one thing that we've had confidence about them being solid game in and game out, and they bought the guys the offensive side a lot of time to get better throughout the year, and things are just gelling right now. I was a complete fanboy. That game. I was weight room. While you're trying to work out and watch a football game, especially your team, it kind of throws your sets off a little bit. You start getting that little cold sweat because you're not staying locked into the action of working out. But man, that was a great game to sit up there and watch. I felt that you have those feelings where you feel good. You feel good the entire game, and no matter what could happen, what could go on. It's kind of like the game. Was that yesterday? The Eagles game. We just. If you put the ball back in Jalen's hands, he's going to score, and they're going to win the ball game. And how I felt good, Saturday about the game down in Manhattan, I felt that exact same way. I just felt like no matter what they throw at us, snow piling on top of the helmets and all of that, we're going to come out with this win. And it was. I love games like that. I love games like that.
Well, players make plays, no matter the temperature, no matter the weather. Players are going to make those plays, and certainly Sama was on top of his game. He got his first career start, rushed for 278 yards, 3 touchdowns. That was phenomenal.
Crazy.
Imagine if it wasn't no snow.
That's only 4th place on Iowa State's career or games leader.
Saw that.
I mean, Troy Davis had 2 300-yard games, and another game that he was close to 300. That's what's so crazy about all this.
Yeah.
Me and my son were just having a talk about that. I was like, wasn't Troy's record like 370 something, 378 or something like that? I was like, I ain't gonna lie to you, that's gonna be tough to beat. I think that's gonna stay because nobody's running the ball 40 times a game like we were back then when Troy was around. But it's like, man, 400 yards of offense for one dude. I mean, you talking about the recovery that the kid's gonna need for a 400-yard game. I'm sure it's crazy for the almost 300 he went for this week, but I think that record might not be tapped into. I think I'll bet some money on that. It'll stay there for a while. Just saying.
Another player that stepped up was Jalen Noel. He had the 2 long touchdowns, 79 yards and 82 yards. The one play that made me a little bit nervous was that tiptoe up the sidelines that I just had flashbacks at the Kansas game again, where they had the referee Phantom called him out and he was in the whole time, and no such play this year. He ran up the sidelines for a touchdown.
That's it. It's one of those get back games. It's almost like a makeup call. You know what I'm saying? They called it out of bounds at the KU game, and they're like, we'll see in a couple weeks against K-State. We'll give it to you if we're here again. So we got lucky that they didn't find something wrong. But he was clearly in. But how that goes.
Well, and that was a nice little block on one of the plays, the tightrope down the sidelines there. Bramer had come up and sealed off that end and just created enough space for him to sneak through there, and then he was gone off to the races. It was a lot of fun to watch. Now this game marked we had 10 first downs to Kansas State, 32 first downs. Wow. And believe it or not, this was the first time that the Cyclone football team has had 4 conference road wins in a season.
Wow. That's dope, man.
Yeah, considering how we started the season, I mean, we thought it was going to be a struggle through, even though we had confidence that they were going to figure it out slowly. I think they figured out a lot faster than we expected. But at the same time, we could go back to the Ohio and that Iowa game. Man, I would love to see those guys right now. I would love to see those guys right now.
1,000%. Totally. Just needed that time to gel, man. That's why I said, I was kind of talking about in the chat. I think, obviously these guys are going to be scary going forward after this year, seeing how well they were clicking at the second half of this season. I always said every job has a learning curve, man. So these young guys got thrusted in, and you see they starting to figure it out. Another game goes by, and it's like, all right, less mistakes, and starting to click a little bit. Like I said, I think Shellhouse is finally starting to find his groove, but when you have playmakers like that have the ability to make guys miss an open field and obviously break off big plays, you slowly start to tailor the offense around the guys, and everything will start making sense, especially when you put guys in positions to win. They've done a really good job of that these past couple of weeks.
Do you think Sama had something to prove tonight or on Saturday? We went into the game not really understanding the situation at the time, but apparently Eli Sanders and Cartavius Norton decided to perhaps enter the transfer portal, although at that time no one really knew until after the game, and Coach Campbell had alluded to something of that sort. You think Sama had come in with a little chip on his shoulder to prove that he was the number one back?
No, not in my opinion. I mean, the kid he shined in the past couple of games he's played in. He was a newcomer of the week or something like that. Was it against that wasn't KU, that was the game before or after. Whatever. He was newcomer of the week at one point already this season. So I think, outside looking in, I feel like they kind of had an idea that this was going to happen. So Sama was probably getting a lot more reps this week because it was anticipated that he was going to be the guy. And we flip-flop backs all week. I mean, all year. Nobody's been like the true starter all year, and they've been trying to look for that replacement. And seeing that they had a home run hitter in this kid, and he's young to get that much playing time, the older guys are like, well, I see what time it is. Like, there's no need to rest a kid like that on the bench if he's making plays like this. And they show support on Twitter and stuff like that too, so you can tell there's no bad blood. They just probably want to play, and they know that's not going to be the case, So, yeah.
Brent, you had made reference when you were pulled up and made your first start. The attitude or the thinking at that time was just, it's next man up. It's my turn.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get up and go. Is that kind of the mindset you think that Sama had at that time? Like, let's just go. I know what I can do. Let's play.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's always had that ability, kind of that home run ability. He's a freakish athlete. I've watched him here in the Des Moines area for the last 3 years or so, and just kind of saw him. And schools were looking at him to be a cornerback, and I think Iowa State looked at him in the beginning. When they offered him, he was a cornerback, but I think he had set out his senior year to prove to everyone that he was a running back, and then all the offers started coming in. And I think he just kind of carried that chip with him going into the season, like, I'm a legit back, and he's made his case. So I think he kind of carries that in his back pocket more than anything else, proving everybody like, hey, I'm an actual running back, not a corner. I'm a good athlete, but I can actually run a rock. So I think that might be something he kind of plays with. But I can't say everyone. I knew it was going to be his job at some point. I didn't know it was going to happen this quick, but I knew it was going to be his job just because of like what I've seen him do, over the course of my years watching the kids. So some guys, you look at you like, oh yeah, that's going to be his job. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see them when they're young and they get that chance, they won't let it go. And I saw that in him. Well,
and you're right. I think that Iowa State was recruiting to be an athlete. The position was athlete. We'll figure it out once you get up here. And then he rushed for 350 yards and 5 TDs in that state championship game. And I think that pretty much cemented it that why don't you start out at running back? We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Why not?
All right. Any other takeaways from the game from Saturday night?
Well, for me, like I said, it was just fun to watch, to see, some of it to come through and, not like his coming out party, but because we've seen the flashes, we know how good he was going to be. But it's promising to watch. I mean, when you get comparison to, the great Troy Davis and, Breece Hall and, a lot of people forget how good Darren Davis was, Troy's little brother as well. So I remember those days where the running back was the stars on the team. Rest in peace to Ennis Hayward. Me and him was in school together, and Ennis was just that back that was that bruiser. So to have that type guy to be able to come in after following David Montgomery and Brees Hall and fall right in line, that's very exciting to see. And so we're going to play out the rest of this year, finish strong, and get ready for next year.
So we've got the Big 12 championship game on Saturday, Texas against Oklahoma State. Any thoughts on who pulls out the win there?
I think Texas wins it by a landslide. Yeah. I don't think it'll be close.
Yeah, me too, Texas.
Yeah.
All right, let's call it 3. Where I think Texas is due. As much as I'm going to be cheering for Oklahoma State because I don't want Texas to win, Texas is just too talented.
Yeah, they are.
They got a lot of pieces, man.
They had some slips early in the season, that they got them off track of, possibly being in the playoffs. But, he's really turned that program around. When you're down in Texas and, all of that Britno, all of that Texas money down there, they'll change the program around real quick.
Yeah,
real quick.
They'll rearrange everything in it
really
fast to get some winning happening.
So,
man.
So the football team ends their regular season playing in the snow and making snow angels. Eli Sanders and Cartavius Norton are heading to the transfer portal. It looks like today it was also announced that Deshaun Hanukkah, who's been sitting out the year due to the gambling accusations, has also chosen to enter the transfer portal. Any thoughts with I got to admit, I'm not a big fan of the transfer portal. It's been frustrating to watch. Maybe it makes me an old school, get off my lawn type of guy, but you're seeing some kids that are transferring even twice in their career. I can get where a coach leaves and there is a little bit of free agency that happens there and allowing that student athlete to move on if they would like to. But boy, when you're a starting type of caliber player and you just transfer a second time, Will Howard from Kansas State, we just beat the Wildcats. He announced today that he's transferring. One of his backups, who incidentally went to Valley High School during COVID year, he's transferring as well. It really has changed the dynamics of NCAA football that I'm not certain that we'll ever get away from.
No, I mean, you introduce money to college kids a lot earlier, so that's obviously going to play a role in it. But I think it's good for those guys who really just want the opportunity to play, but won't get to see it at whatever school they might have chose. The coaching change, cool too, but I think the 2 and 3 transfers, it just creates this culture where I'm facing a little adversity here, and I might have to work to get something. I'm just gonna leave. I don't like that because I think that's a huge part of the conversation my son and I are having is like, wherever you're going to be, like, plan on making that home. Like, I don't want to see no you do a grad transfer year, okay, because now you're done. You just want to go somewhere or whatever. But like wherever you decide to go, like, stay there because you need to learn how to fight. You got to battle your way to the top because no matter where you go, you'll be the small fish in the big pond. You got to figure it out. But I mean, it's it's a gift and a curse, man. But now that money is involved for the top tier guys, they can be a starter on your team this year and know they can go to, Lincoln Riley's out there and he wants me. Well, I'm going to go to USC because I know I'm probably going to get met with a check and a jet. You know what I'm saying? So these kids don't care about any loyalty to any program. But I'm a fan and I'm not a fan. It's kind of like I'm torn, to be honest.
Yeah, they need to, get the reins on in some way, somehow. I mean, because, like we said, old school back when we were in school, if you transferred, you had to sit out that year, So I remember my freshman year into my sophomore year when Coach Floyd left and Coach Eustace came in, once he was introduced and he came in, we had big press conference at the Jake, and they had me speaking and talking. They were, they asked the questions about me transferring, and I was like, no, I'm staying. And like it was a big uproar. The crowd was clapping and stuff. And so I looked at Stevie and I'm like, did they think I was leaving? Like that never even crossed my mind. I said, I made a promise to, come here and play for Coach Floyd. Coach Floyd left, to coach the Chicago Bulls, and that next promise was to, play for Iowa State. And I planned on being here until that time was over. I mean, it never crossed my mind. But now we're in a time where, like Brent said, the NILs are definitely, presenting this picture that is greener on the other side. There's the grass is greener on the other side, and they're trying to lure you in and things like that. And so, like you said, we know we've seen a couple players on 3 or 4 different colleges. Then you have the COVID year. Then they may have redshirted a year, and it's like, I saw a guy that was playing the other day. I figured what basketball team he was on, but he's 26 years old. And my oldest son is 26, and he's been a pro for 2 years. It's like, how are you still in college? Now, I can see if you started school late, but like you're on your 7th year of eligibility. How do you get that? And he's been to a couple schools here and there. So it's like, go ahead and stay there and try to battle it out. See what you got. If you have aspirations of making it to the next level or getting to the next level, or what are you really there for? It's like, you're not going to, me personally, I feel like you're not going to run me off. You're not going to chase me off. I'm going to build what I can build here, try to build some kind of legacy here, and just go from there. And that was my whole mentality. But the kids now, they're chasing whatever it is they're chasing.
That's it.
Now,
I like that comment too.
Yeah.
It would be nice
they
to
should
have
limit
one.
it.
I'm not even sold on the one open. I was talking with Chris Shipley before we got started today, and it almost feels like I wish that there would be better rules in place or more guidance, of which, if you're a starter or have played more than 50, 60, 75% of the snaps, I don't know what that would necessarily look like, but you shouldn't be able to transfer, or you can only do so with coach's permission or something like that, because you're going to have players that, hey, I've got the super guy, I've got a Abu Sama behind me that really everyone can look around the room and say, yeah, he should be starting because he's an exceptional talent. So I am going to go and look somewhere else. And my coach agrees with me, because that means Abu Sama gets to have more snaps. But just to openly transfer, it just doesn't feel right. Do you think that most kids, and Brent, you may have answered this a bit, do you think most kids that are coming out are now looking at that backup like, hey, if things don't work out after a year or two, I will transfer just because the rules allow me, where when you guys were in school, that really wasn't an option?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think when I played, if you transfer, you had to sit out a year or something like that, which was not it. Even if it was out of conference, it didn't matter. But I mean, yeah, kids are going in with that. Well, if it don't work here, I was recruited by 40 schools, and I was super tight with 10 of them. So if I go to Michigan State and I don't like it, I am transferring to Iowa State because I know they like me. You know what I mean? So these kids are all walking into it with the idea of, if it don't work here, I'm gonna go somewhere and make it. I'll have the chance to go elsewhere to work. But I think that there should be some sort of reins on it, some sort of limitations with it, so that guys can't just waste everybody's time.
Yeah, throw that. You got to sit out a year back at them and see how much it tapers down a lot, because that changes the NIL lure money and all of that. Like, throw that out there.
Yeah,
that's one thing that I think will change it a lot.
100%. I mean, like you said, I remember seeing some football guy. Sorry, I was just thinking about guys playing for like 6 and 7 years. Oregon, I think, had a tight end. Bo Nix is him too. Yeah, there was a tight end too. But it's like, what are you really trying to do?
Right,
6 or 7 years of football.
Like you 24, 25, leading the race in Heisman. By the time I get to that age, I either supposed to be a pro or I'm going to win the Heisman Trophy. I mean, come on now, right? Like, come on. I remember, and I love Ed Nahara to death. You know, we've been close friends since we were in college. But as a freshman, I think he was like 21 or 22, and I was 18. I was a freshman. He was a sophomore. They were saying like how good he was, and I answered like they asked the question, and I answered like genuinely. I was like, "Well, hell, what you expect? I'm 18 years old. He's 21. He's supposed to be this good, you know." But that made me, you know, get in the weight room and want to get better. Then that sophomore year, I changed that around a little bit. Yeah. So it's like when you're around and you're older. I mean, you're supposed to figure, you know, who is it? Brian Winkie, the one that the Heisman at 28?
Yeah.
You're supposed to be in the NFL 8 or 9 years by now, you know?
Oh,
so,
man.
The like almost bald Chris Winkie, too.
Winkie, yeah.
Yeah. So
Chris
Tyler
Winkie.
Shuck, you may remember him. We played against Oregon. He was one of the quarterbacks in that bowl game in the Fiesta Bowl in 2020. But he announced today he transferred from Oregon to Texas Tech. He's transferring as a graduate transfer. So I believe that he's going to be on his 7th season of college football in 2024 as well.
He transferred from somewhere else before he went to Oregon too, didn't he?
I'm not sure about that. That requires too much homework for me tonight. So
Ship said Michael Penix started at Indiana. So same thing, like, you know, he's second and third in the Heisman race. Like, come on now. But
another old man.
Every time I hear you guys talk about 7 years, it reminds me of that quote from Tommy Boy when he says a lot of guys went to college for 7 years. Yeah.
That's right. Tommy Boy.
So I'm not naming names on the podcast, but his name's Steve Yawk, also did the 7-year plan. Anyway, question of the day before we go to break, and I want you to come back with an answer. Your choice, if you could do it, a Final Four appearance or a football championship game. So we're going to go to break from Revelton Distillery, hear from them, and we'll come back with your responses.
At Revelton Distilling Company, everyone has become a part of the Revelton family. From the Taylors and their daughter who helped perfect their award-winning gins, to the team who installed Lucy, our 33-foot-tall custom-made still, right down to the local farms that provide our coveted corn, and even the cows on those farms who consume our mash byproduct. Want to see the farm to flask come to life? Now you can tour Lucy and find out where we take Iowa's harvest and transform it into our finest spirits. Choose between a 45-minute tour or find out even more by scheduling a VIP behind-the-scenes tour to get the taste of the full Revelton experience. You can visit them at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, or find all of Revelton's award-winning spirits at any local grocery or spirits retailer.
All right, and we're back. Thank you, Revelton. Tonight, I've gone back to the whiskey cream liqueur. Actually ran out over the weekend for the Thanksgiving holiday and had to go out and buy some more tonight. So thank you, Revelton. Looking forward to, I believe it's December 9th. We're all Three Beards Media is meeting down at Revelton in Osceola, where you have a chance to meet all the podcast hosts. And I think we're doing one ginormous podcast that will be going from live from Revelton. So I hope to see everyone then and tune in. So before the break, I was teasing about my friend Steve. No, it was actually 5.5 years. We just give him, I just harassed him about the 7-year plan, but
just 5.5.
5.5. So anyway, the question: Final Four appearance or football championship game? What would you guys choose?
Final Four as in football or basketball Final Four?
Basketball final, that's a valid question. So let's assume basketball Final Four and football championship game. And it's Iowa State. You guys are not eligible to play, unfortunately.
Don't want to be.
I'm a football fan, so I mean, I'm going football. I'm going football. I mean, you know, I feel, not to say it felt like I failed, but I mean, we were on the road to getting there. We were one game away from it. So that is what it is. But, you know, I mean, there's no secret. Football is my favorite sport. Football fan. I definitely would love to be on the side. I will be on the sideline of that one. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
for
geared all the way
sure.
down to the socks. I probably have
That's
cardinal
it.
and gold shoestrings through my shoes. I'll be there for that one for
That's
sure.
it.
And I would hope Revelton and Gravitate would find a way for us to get down on the field too. You know,
Yeah,
we
for
would
real.
we would heavily promote the co-working space on the sidelines of the national championship game.
That's
Definitely.
it. Yeah.
What about
That's
you,
an
Brad?
easy one. That's an easy championship. Like I've been a part of a couple of them in football, and it's like just that atmosphere is ridiculous. You know what I mean? And you get the chance to walk away with a ring. I'd go with the championship. Got to. It was super dope, man. Super dope.
Well, I suspected Marcus would select football because I know you're a big football junkie, and Brent, I thought you'd pick Final Four being a basketball junkie. So
it's a weird dynamic that, you know, now they automatically assume whatever sport you participated in should be your favorite, and I mean that's just not the case. Like, you know, that's just not the case. I mean, you know, it just depends on what you love the most and what you can and cannot do. You know, I could do football a little bit, but I think I did basketball a little bit better, so I lean towards that. And you know, the rest is history. But you know, that's been one of the trivia questions like my whole career. What's your favorite sport? And people who really know me know it's football. They're like, how the hell that happened? You know, my dad had me playing football first, and that was you know, my first love. And so once I grew from 6 feet to 6'7", 6'8", he was like, nah, it's time to come off and out there.
Get your hands out the dirt, son. Let's pick up this round ball.
Especially where everybody else is not above like 6'3", 6'4" out there. You know, you come on. Now, if I was somewhere like, you know, Texas or Florida, you know, whatever where they had like football players. Like I remember when I met Reggie Hayward, and Reggie's 6'7". And we eye to eye, and you know, and we were at the rec. You know, Reggie could play basketball, jump in there, dunking everything.
Well, he had those huge long arms, too.
Man, I was thinking, man, I hope this kid don't, you know, try to come out there and Reggie, another one made me get stronger. I hope he don't come out here and try to, you know, play back. And then he was like, "No, man, I play football," and I was like, man, like, you know, Marcel, like, man, these guys are my size. Like, what did I miss? Andy Stensrud. Like, all these guys are my size. I was like, well, it's too late now. I'm definitely not going out there to that frozen tundra. I'm fine. I'm
fine. You were closer to what? About 230? What was your playing weight, Marcus?
At Iowa State, 245, 250.
But you're talking about guys that are probably hovering closer to 280, 290, maybe 3.
No.
Football playing
day,
you think?
Light. They were light.
No, Reggie was probably about 240.
I was going to say he had to
Reggie
be about that same. Yeah, he wasn't big.
But Andy Stensrud, he ended up moving to the
Andy.
line.
Yeah.
Oh, did he? I didn't know that. Yeah, Andy he came in as a tight end. Andy played basketball too, so we both came in together. So Andy was probably about 270 at the time, whatever. Yeah.
He was big. Yeah, Reggie was a slim dude. Small.
Yeah, Reggie was real slim. But man, he could jump out the gym. He was in there.
Yeah.
Man, this. Didn't I find out you played football? Oh, you can't be out here beat me at basketball now.
That ain't good. That is not good.
Man.
All right, so speaking of basketball, let's shift our attention towards Orlando. Three tough games for the Cyclones. You know, we had 4 layups early in the season, and the competition really increased. Beat VCU 84 to 68. Is that the final score?
Sounds right.
And then lost to Virginia Tech 71-62. And then last night lost to Texas A&M 73 to 69, which the game looked a little bit closer, or the score ended up looking a little bit closer, I think, than actually what it felt like at the end of the game. I know we exchanged some text messages this week or over the weekend. What were your takeaways from this weekend in those games in Orlando for the basketball squad?
Well, I knew it was going to be a little tougher competition than it had been the first, 3 or 4 games. So I was excited to see, how they would fare against that type competition. I missed the VCU game, but I caught the one against Virginia Tech, and I missed most of the Texas A&M game. But just to see how we would fare against them. The Virginia Tech game, their point guard that they had, he's an older guy, really, really seasoned, know how to run the ball club, got a little tricks, that's in his back pocket that, he got the young fella, Keyshawn them on. So it was definitely wanted to win, which we won them, but definitely knew that this was a test that they needed early. We're still trying to figure some things out. I'm still going to be biased. I'm a big Trey King fan. I'm a big, big fan. I want, the young fellow Belu to get out there more. I want, Ward to get out there more and do the things that they can do, to elevate the team. But, like we said, it's early. How many games we got? 6 or 7 now. So while they're still learning, trying to put together everything, hopefully they can do, as the football team did early in the year.
So Taman Lipsey, you should really go back and watch that VCU game. Iowa State was behind, and Taman Lipsey just seemed to take over that game, finished with 22 points, and just he played hard. I mean, he played really well down the stretch in particular, and really fought for the Cyclones. One thing I've found interesting over the course of the weekend is the rotation look so much different, the player rotation from those first 4 games. We saw Pavlitsky come in, and he played a lot more minutes this weekend than he had previously. And I'm kind of wondering, at what point, do you think that TJ will sort of lock in what that rotation is going to look like? And in prior episodes, we've talked a little bit about Omaha Blue. He barely played this weekend. I was shocked when I went back and looked at the minutes. He played less than 5 minutes against Virginia Tech and less than 6 minutes against Texas A&M. And I don't think it was due to foul troubles either. Any thoughts there?
Well, I mean, it's the learning curve. It's early. It's early for him. You are literally in a state of basketball that you've probably never been in before. Like, people don't understand how much better the competition is one level up and then the next level up. Even if it's not the talent or, the skill and all of that, veterans at that level know how to play. They know the little tricks and other trade and things to get you frustrated or to get you out of position and things like that. So he's trying to figure it out. But our guards, are really tough. Like I've coached against Keyshawn Gilbert since he was in the 7th, 8th grade. He's played basketball against Marcus Jr. since he was in the 5th and 6th grade. So that kid is tough. He's in a different conference now. He's in the Big 12, playing against tougher competition that he played against at UNLV. So give him a little time. He's going to figure it out. He's a really, really, really tough kid. And we know how tough Taman is. He played extremely well last year as a freshman. And now this year he's trying to continue to gel everything together. And I think, everything is going to have to get better in practice. Like, I don't know how tough the practices are. I would love to be able to get back and, just sit in the shadows and watch and see how tough practices are. Like, our practices were tough. I mean, our practices was really tough. I mean, I had a guy named Clint Vardaly that was probably strong as Reggie. That was just, giving me the business all practice, but it made us better. It made us better from the top to the bottom. And like I said, they're going to have to get tougher in practice, and they're going to have to be allowed to get out there to make some kind of mistakes because, it's a different atmosphere when it's, that many people out there in the crowd, and you just got to go out, focus on the things that you got to do to have success and, let it go.
Well, and free throws seem to be an Achilles heel as well. 60% against VCU, which that was a win.
Mm.
Virginia Tech 57%, and now Virginia Tech, they shot a clip at 87%. That's a big difference there. And then against Texas A&M, 66% again. So we got to make those free throws down the stretch.
Yeah. Our goal was to make more free throws than the opponent attempted. That was, something that Coach Larry Stacey harped on, the coaching staff harped on. So we put ourselves in position to get fouled, but getting fouled, get up to the line and make them. So, that's a big responsibility that really changes the game, the dynamic of the game. And we got to do a lot better than that for sure.
Well, and any coach will tell you, make that first one at the very least. Make that first shot, because that gives you a chance for that second free throw or third.
Yep.
Does the loss of Hassan Ward, are we starting to see the impact there of not having that down on the block enforcer, particularly on defense?
Is that a me question or Marcus question? You there?
Oh,
I'll take it to you for either one of you.
Yeah, of course. He's a guy that showed, what he can do with his talent and his skill. I'm not sure how long he's going to be out. Hopefully it's not that long, but that comes a part of the game. So while it's still early, hopefully we can continue to stay afloat while he gets healthier to be able to come back and, for the most important time of the season, which is going into conference and things like that. So, only time will tell in these next couple games, the huge impact of it all, but absolutely we would rather have him than not have him out there.
Yeah. Well,
I got a question real quick for Marcus. What do you say? I know I was talking about football and the learning curve kind of being 45 games for, younger guys. What do you think that is for the transition from high school to college for these guys?
Well,
Omaha,
probably,
any of those?
Probably typically the same, but it depends on the amount of reps that you're getting, the amount of time that you're getting. I mean, if he plays 5 minutes a game, this game, and then 6 another game, and then 10 another. Now he's played a total of 25 minutes in 3 games. But if he's playing 25 minutes a game, then that's more reps. There's more, angles where, okay, well, the double team came and I was able to move it and it was a turnover. Well, next time the double team come, I'm going to look in a different place. So it's not a turnover. But if that one time that he's out there for 5 minutes and a double team come and it's a turnover and he's not in the game no more, then, he doesn't get that opportunity in that exact same game to do something better. And if we go into another game plan, another defense, and maybe the double team is not coming, maybe he tries to do something else that's, he hadn't had a chance to do before and now correct. So without the minutes and the time, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a longer process, but the kid is a McDonald All-American for a reason. So we have to get him out there. We got to get him out there and see what we can do, even if it's not running plays for him to score or whatever. With that athleticism, attacking the rim, playing defense, we got to get him in the positions that he can help the team get better.
Yeah, I agree.
Completely agreed. All right, the wrestling duel. We had our correspondent attend the Iowa State wrestling duel. That was a sellout up in Ames. It was also broadcast live on ESPN, which was the first time that a wrestling duel was on ESPN. Chris,
I didn't know that.
Chris was there. Give us your take of how that went.
Man, that was electric. That whole environment was electric. The intro, I think I tweeted out, if I had one out in, I'd just wear it around the house all day long. That'd be the only thing I'd wear. It was great. That was the first time I'd ever been to a duel. There was a lot of rules that I didn't know, but you picked up pretty quick that what was going on and what you needed. And then you look and you see, so the coaches made a couple mistakes there. I think at the end of the 179 match. Oh, I'm sorry. With Woods from Iowa, we had a takedown right there as the clock ended, and they didn't challenge that. And Dresser later on in an interview said he messed that up. He should have done that. And then in the 179 match, I think that they had the score wrong. There's something called riding time, and the wrestler at that time had looked over to Coach Dresser, and Dresser told him to ride it out, thinking that he had had enough points for riding time, and not realizing that he needed a takedown to take it over. So that both those were on Coach Dresser. He owned it. But man, that was our best chance to beat Iowa in a long time. And man, I just don't know. Shit like that just seems to happen to us, like brain farts and anomalies or whatever. That I don't know. But the crowd was electric. It was great on TV from what I saw and what I got feedback from. And Iowa State did it right, man. It was great. It was packed. So I'll show you. I took a photo from my vantage point. I mean, there wasn't an open seat in that place, and it was loud. It was loud.
Wow.
It looked incredible on ESPN as well. I don't know if anyone else had a chance to watch it, but I was at home doing some errands and sat down, and it was captivating to watch.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was some other games on, like basketball, football, or whatever that was on, and I was watching the Iowa State versus Iowa wrestling match, and to see it on ESPN, that was really, really dynamic for sure.
Well, and I'm hopeful that the ESPN ratings will warrant a return visit with those two schools, because it shows off the state, it shows off the caliber of wrestling programs that the two state universities have, and it was a lot of fun to watch. It was intense. There were some upsets, there was some domination, and I didn't realize that there was a challenge flag or a challenge that you can have in wrestling now too. That's incredible.
It's 2 bricks. It's called a challenge brick. Apparently, there's 2. And Jay here says, I forgot about that. They broke out these Trice logo and I Will uniforms that were
they were real nice. They had Ames on the front.
Yep.
That was big time.
They were legit. It was overall just super cool. And I think ESPN has realized what the state of Iowa brings as far as wrestling goes. It's bar none.
They should have been saw that.
I'm an undefeated wrestler. I mean, you may not have known that. I grew up wrestling and playing basketball when I was real little, and then I had to make a decision between the two sports because you would compete at the same time, same schedule. So I chose basketball, only because I went to a weightlifting event, and one of the wrestlers did a WWE on me, flipped me over and slammed me on my back, and I said, I think I'll play basketball.
There's those uniforms right there. That was the back, the idol on the top, the Ames on the headpieces. So yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's dope.
It was all around a good time. So definitely would recommend. It won't be my last one, that's for sure.
Well, that's good.
Are they mandating that they wear the headgear now?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's mandated by the NCAA.
I remember seeing a lot of guys with cauliflower ear.
There was a lot of stalling too. I mean, that was the one thing I learned. Iowa stalled quite a bit and should have gotten called a lot more for it and didn't. So, yeah.
Well, good job, Jamie Pollard, and to both universities. I think they represented Iowa State, the University of Iowa well. It was a lot of fun to watch. All right, so I think that we're closing out this edition of In the Side of the Storm. Any final thoughts, Marcus or Brent?
No,
I just hope for a good bowl, man. Hope for a good bowl game.
Well, by this time next week, we should know that, because the Big 12 championship game is, I believe, noon on Sunday or on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And then the bowl bowl reveals will occur Sunday afternoon at some point, so we should know if we're going to Shreveport or if we're going back to Memphis or maybe even Houston and or Phoenix. So I guess we'll just put on pause until we know more.
San
again, just
Antonio's in play too
Ooh,
for the
that'd be
Alamo
nice.
Bowl.
Especially with that win over Kansas State. I think that was a bigger win than what we had initially thought of. So that'll be great if we can make a return trip down there.
Yeah,
we travel phenomenally well.
Yeah, I think they said if Texas makes the college playoff, that will slot us possibly for the Alamo Bowl.
What place is Texas in now?
I think they released that tomorrow as far as where the college football rankings are. I think that's
I think they're 5 or 6.
They were 6 before.
Yeah, I think they're top 6 right now.
Yeah, they were 6 before.
But is anybody out of the top 4 going to fall? I mean, I know Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah, one of those two will drop out this time.
Out of the 4,
Ohio State will drop out, and possibly Florida State go in. They're undefeated, but they lost their top quarterback. And
that's probably going to stop them from going in.
And then you've got Washington lingering there too. If they win the Pac-12, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be crazy. Although Washington, I think, is in the top 4 right now. I would not be surprised if tomorrow it's not Georgia, Michigan, Washington, and maybe Florida State.
But a lot could happen with championship games this weekend. ACC basketball or championship game in the Pac-12. Weird things happen in some of those games, and you just got to be ready for anything to happen. And one of those surprise wins could result in Texas taking that last spot.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see what they're going to do at Ohio State. I mean, that was a big game, and to lose in Michigan, they didn't get blown out. So it's do we knock out Ohio State to bring in, to make sure that Washington, Pac-12, like, come on now, these, no knock against TCU, but when TCU got to the national championship game, it was like, man. Where'd that come from? So,
well, I think they want to avoid that again. That was embarrassing.
I know.
I think they want to avoid that, and unless I got to think though that if Oregon beats, I think it's Oregon that's playing Washington. If Oregon beats Washington, Pac-12 is off the table.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's going to happen. I think Oregon is going to beat them. Yep.
Yeah, because Washington State gave them all they can handle this past weekend.
So just a reminder, December 9th, 12 to 2 at Revelton and Osceola. Hope to see everyone there. And then we follow up that Monday. We have a surprise guest. Maybe it's no longer a surprise, but we'll be having Jamie Pollard on this show. So tell your friends, family. Please like and subscribe to the podcast. And we'll see everyone next week for another edition of In the Side of the Storm.